Well, good morning, everyone. This is Lowell Ann, host of the Mastermind, Being Your Own CEO, and this is our Embrace Aging series. Over the past months, the three of us have been discussing various topics that explore just how we do embrace aging. You can find about 8 other previous discussions either on my Google profile or in my YouTube channel. So this morning we thought we would talk about downsizing and moving. But first of all, of course, I think we need to do a few introductions. So Nancy, how would you like to begin by introducing yourself and what you do?
Okay, well, good morning. My name's Nancy Crites. I live in Victoria, British Columbia, and my background is in teaching, holistic nutrition. I've been involved with USANA Health Sciences. I'm a life transition coach and a homeopath. And I'm very pleased to be here this morning on our hangout with my colleagues here and my cohorts, and looking forward to our discussion and our sharing this morning.
Right on. Thanks, Nancy. And Sue, how about you?
Yep, my name is Sue Ferreira. I've been a physician for about 40 years, and in my later years, I've transitioned into basically being one of those increasing numbers of baby boomer entrepreneurs. But what I am doing is basically helping baby boomer entrepreneurs make a success of the businesses that they're trying to start in their later years. And I take folks and expose them to a much wider audience by marketing them online with video, with audio, with ebook creation, podcasting, and all that kind of stuff. Because frankly, these days, if you maintain just a local reach, it's going to be tough to generate much income. So I take you to the world.
Oh, wow. Boy, that's really new age, isn't it? So, and I might introduce what I do in my work style, lifestyle coaching work. I just love helping solo entrepreneurs find directions, stay motivated, and build systems that support and promote their business. And one support that I really like to emphasize is making use of this Google Plus experience. And two places to begin might be my regular Tuesday morning mastermind, Being Your Own CEO. And I also teach a 3-part workshop. It's called Beginner's Google for Business. So you can find details about all of that on my new website, loweland.com. So now we've introduced, we've taken care of that part of the agenda. So in our discussion in the green room, I guess that was last week, wasn't it? That we really came to the realization that a lot of these lessons and our approach and all the whole aspect of this topic really depends on our own personal style and our circumstances, and they're all going to be different to some degree. And we also discovered that where to relocate and the decision and all of those pieces were so deeply entwined that it's really difficult to separate and unpack. So, but that's what we're going to try to do this morning, is unpack them and separate them a little bit so that we can make some sense out of this. So I think we agreed earlier that I might take the lead on the first piece, and that was really what circumstances would prompt us to make a decision to downsize. And sometimes downsizing doesn't always mean moving, but often it does. So I might answer that question because that was the first question the other two asked me when we were doing this. What made you make that decision? Because I was living in a one-bedroom suite out quite far away from the center of town, and I became very conscious that I was doing a lot of driving. and which is costly, not very good for the environment. And as I was looking forward, I'm certainly quite a distance away from not being able to drive anymore, but I thought, you know, if I'm making a decision to do something about moving, I need to move to somewhere where I won't need to drive. So I ended up in a downtown village here in Victoria called Cook Street Village. But there were a couple of other things that came into play. And one of them was that two very close friends, both who lived together, both had a serious health crisis. And then they found themselves in the situation where they really needed to downsize and move. So they went from a big 2-story house with a big 2-car garage that was full down to a 1-bedroom apartment, and watching them deal with that, having just been through these really big health crises, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to do all of this before there's any crisis or health crisis in my life. And so that was another reason that I decided that I was going to downsize and move. The third reason was I have 3 sons, one of whom lives here and the other 2 are somewhere else. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to ever leave that whole exercise for someone else to do. I had to do it for my mother when she got older, and it was very painful, very difficult for her as well as me. And I just decided a long time ago that I was not going to leave that to my sons to deal with. So, so what I'm saying is that lifestyle, family circumstances, well, financial, I guess for some people, I think we talked about that. The financial piece might be for some people moving from a place that they own and don't have to take care of and don't have big mortgages or any of those things, down to renting, which is much, it's really like a simplification exercise. So, and then the potential for a life crisis, and as we get older, and being prepared, having done and taken care of everything ahead of time. So I think I've covered most of them. Do either of you, is there anything else that comes to mind for you about the reasons that we might make that decision?
Well, I'll hop in here. I myself downsized a couple of years ago, and it was actually following a health crisis. Mm-hmm. And the health crisis didn't leave me physically in a state where I could no longer live where I was. However, emotionally, it was a reboot, I guess, and a real deep, look at what do I really want in my life, and realizing, hopefully we've got a long time, but just in case, I want to make the most of my life. So I was really looking at the quality of the life I was leading and the choices that I was making. And I chose to move here to beautiful Victoria from a very busy city to this beautiful place, which offers not only just a gorgeous environment, a milder climate, and a very slow and even pace of living. I love the lifestyle that's offered here, so that's what I was looking for. And in that process, we sold our home over 20 years, where we'd had school-age little wee kids from 3 years old or 2 years old all the way up to 24 now. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of all those years worth of stuff to go through. And again, my husband had a studio. He's an artist out in the backyard. There was just, I was overwhelming, all the stuff. But what I did find, after you go through that, it was an emotional experience as well as a very physically and mentally challenging experience. It feels so great now. It feels like it was an energetic cleanse. And now I'm a simpler, smaller life, and it feels fantastic.
Ah.
Great.
So that's a really good addition. That I missed that. Yeah, for sure. So how about you, Sue? Anything to add there?
Well, I'll just go really quickly. I mean, for me, I'm one of those folks who had a great divorce. So, you know, I was forced to reinvent my life, and I walked out of my marriage with a backpack. And, you know, that was a lot of other baggage that I got rid of later, but a backpack physically. And for me, just what Nancy was saying, it was a totally cleansing experience. And then where are you going to go, right? You've walked out of a 34-year marriage, and I was looking again like Nancy, somewhere where I wasn't going to be worried about snow and ice, that I was going to fall over and break my hip. I wanted somewhere on the flat. I wanted somewhere that I would be able to get rid of the car, buses close by, and walk to the shops for as long as I could walk. And that's what I looked for, and it's what I found. And I have a thing that exactly the same thing, that my kids are not going to deal with my my stuff. They have enough trouble with their dad because he's got a bit of a hoarder challenge. So I now live a much simpler life as well, and I don't regret downsizing one little bit.
Aha. So and I think you've both kind of covered a little bit about how to decide about where to relocate to. You talked about the climate, and we talked about being able, well, the lifestyle piece, being able to walk and so forth. So sometimes that means a change of city. Sometimes it means just a change of neighborhood, which is what I did. Just and you both chose a new city, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
of course, people are choosing new countries these days as well with the cost of living. I mean, there's a massive relocation to foreign countries, and that's probably another whole new hangout, because I've got some opinions on that. But I think you're right. It's the decision of how and where is very important.
Yeah, and that's I mean, it's I guess really being clear about what sort of a lifestyle that we want to lead. I guess that's part of it. So there are various reasons why we decide that a change has to be made. So it's relocating, and often it's downsizing. So then there comes that whole piece about planning and organizing.
Yeah. We talked a bit about this recently, didn't we? Because Lowell Ann, you've just done this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So what does happen? Can you share with us, Lowell Ann, your experience doing your most recent planning on relocation?
Well, certainly there are lots and lots of details to take care of, and I might say, because I am a bit of a detail person and I am an organized person, I took care of all of this for myself. But I should point out that there are lots of professionals around who can do this kind of thing. If you're not a detailed person yourself, find somebody who is. Take the stress out of it. The other piece about planning and organizing that I would say is, don't be shy about asking your friends for help. And I found that there were loads of people who offered to help. Somebody actually said, "Oh, I wish you'd talk to me. I love helping people move. I think it's such fun." I thought, wow. But I did have two very close friends who offered to help. One who had a really good van, because I drive a very small car, so when we were trying to move things around and do things, that van was just a godsend. And then I had another close friend who was here actually she was here when I moved the last time. She just was here and helping to unpack and ask questions and keep her moving, because by the time the moving day comes, you've made so many damn decisions, you get to the point where you don't know if you can make any more.
Yeah.
So it was great to have her here. So the other thing, I'm looking at my notes here. You need lots of lead time, and of course that depends on the amount of stuff you have to get rid of. But for me, I was lucky enough that I started about mid-January, and the move was right at the end of February. So I had a month and a half, and it took pretty much all of that. I mean, I did take care of business and, you know, the essentials, but every other minute was taken up, sort of, you know, taking care of details. So you really do need to give yourself lots of lead time. The other thing that I would say is you need to do lots of research around the community so that you know where to sell, where to donate, who picks stuff up, all of those things. I mean, it takes a bit of asking around and searching online and finding out all of that. So there's a fair amount of research time that goes into it. Then the other thing that I realized was that I needed to look at what principles I was going to apply. And when I say that, one of the principles I applied was there will be no storage locker. I am going to do this, and I'm going to complete it. So to me, choosing to have a storage locker was choosing not to finish the job. So that's what I mean by principles. Another one for me was going paperless. I was pretty close before, but I realized that I could do a lot more and a lot better. So I'm down to 2 of those little plastic boxes with one with personal papers and the second one with business papers. Couple of things, there are a few things that you do need to keep a hard copy, but everything else now is electronic. No more paper. And a couple of other things for me was that I was only going to keep things that I'm using. If I haven't used it for a long time, it's going. But it was important to pay attention to aesthetics, so that where I'm going, it has to look beautiful and be nice to be in. So there were some things that I needed to keep and pay attention to that. And then a couple of other things. Do I want to sell things or do I want to donate them? How's that going to work? And am I going to do all of this myself, or am I going to pay somebody else to do it for me? So those are all the things that I call principles.
Huge.
Yeah. So I had all of that decided, and part of all that organizing was something as simple as going around and measuring every piece of furniture I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I knew that when I finally chose where I was going to live, I knew exactly what was going to fit there. And the measurements, and took pictures of everything. And those 2 things were an important part of the selling things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a lot of organizing, planning and organizing. And I must say that my sleep wasn't great at that time, because I kept waking up with another detail. So
just made, Lowell Ann, about taking photos and measuring everything is huge, because there's a lot of stuff out there about downsizing, right? And a lot of it's kind of touchy-feely stuff. But that is I think if anyone wants to move in the way that you have, that is absolutely key. Take photos, measure, and I tell you, we have to call that, what should we call that? The Lowell Ann mantra, because you don't see that, and it's actually huge. It's really, really important.
It is. It stood me in good stead in the end.
Well, and on that note, all of that initial getting rid of it and all of those logistics, which are just so overwhelming, ultimately it feels so wonderful to move into your new place and know where everything is and what everything is. Everything that you have, you know. Everything in my closet, I know what it is and I wear it. Instead of, so much other stuff. So it's nice to feel that light and organized, and life is just easier too that way. It just feels, and hey, it's feng shui time for spring cleaning, so
Oh,
this applies even just in your everyday at home, even if you're not going anywhere. Good time to get that organizing done.
My next round of clearance is right now. If I wasn't so busy doing Live Your Retirement Dream, I'd be in there chucking again. I'm on my second round of cathartic cleaning, so I got to keep doing it.
That's funny you say that, because I've been here for a year in this space, and this is what I'm doing today. After my adventure with my friends, I'm halfway through really feng shuiing, cleaning, organizing my office space. So, yeah.
feels good, doesn't it?
It does.
I think there must be something about humanity. I mean, how long has there been this concept of spring cleaning? It's been around since my grandmother's time and probably her grandmother's time.
Yes.
So,
Well, I got that druid thing from growing up near Stonehenge, and I firmly believe that we should start the year. January the 1st should be the March 21st equinox, because that's when we do renew. And I get this feeling every year at this time. And I think it's something really, really fundamental. I think you hit the button there, Lowell Ann.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true. I found, it's energetically, right? It's new beginnings. Here in North America, in the Western Hemisphere, in our climate, it is a new beginning right now. As we look out the window, the energy is just opening up, and it's just a natural time, I think, for us to really step out from our winter hibernation and put some energy into refreshing and renewing.
Totally agree.
Yeah. When you say that, it is North America. I wonder, I've never thought about that before, but if you live near the equator, I wonder if there's something similar.
Yeah.
It would be
they never do that. They never have to do deep cleaning, I guess.
I think you're right. It's a North America. Well, it's a Northern Hemisphere thing. I mean, it was the same in the UK. Spring comes and it's time to just reconsider your life and shuffle things off into the garbage or to some consignment store and start your next year again. And like I said, if I was world dictator, I'd change the days around a bit and we'd have New Year on March 21st.
Yeah.
But I'm not, and I have no plans so to be. So there you go.
Yeah, it's so this whole purging is a natural thing. So just moving on to some of the other things that we were going to talk about. I did learn a few lessons about selling online that I thought might be of value to our viewers. So I'm just going to list the lessons that I learned. First of all, you have to understand when you list something for sale online. When I used a company called Used Victoria, I only used one, and it worked out really, really well. But you got to recognize that a lot of people who go there, they're bargain hunters. And so you're going to realize that there's a whole segment of people that will always offer you $20 less than your listed price. So bear that in mind when you're setting your price. Know that there are a lot of unreliable buyers and lookers that don't show up when they say they will, etc., etc. So hold nothing. Don't do any favors. Don't even think about it. There are also some very reliable people who do what they say they're going to do, come in and just pay your listed price and take care of things, and away they go. There are lots of people like that too, but there's those two kinds, and you got to be ready for both. We talked about the pictures and dimensions. You got to put pictures and you got to put dimensions, because that's the dimensions are always what get people stuck. They need to know whether that piece of furniture will fit into whatever they're looking at. Another important one was make changes to any of your listings on Friday. because the highest traffic is on Friday evening and Saturday morning. I figured that out early in the game, and most of your sales happen as a result of whatever happened on Friday night and Saturday morning. And leave lots of time for yourself. Like in your downsizing exercise, start the process of selling things really early so that you're not subject to that panic selling in the end. But there are opportunities, like if things don't sell, and also if you've got something that's kind of cumbersome that you don't think you can sell, you can put it on Used Victoria and just tell people it's free if you just come and get it, and that works quite well as well. And a couple of safety things: deal in cash only, and if you live alone and you've got people coming to look, make sure you've got somebody handy. Don't be there by yourself if you're female, especially. So, but I don't know. I think that would be true of whatever gender. You just don't want to be there by yourself. So those are some of the lessons that I learned about selling online. It was quite an experience, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
So have either of you ever tried any of that? Or did you? I think, Sue, I remember you saying you used the back.
Yeah. I've sold a whole pile of stuff online. I wouldn't even think of doing it any other way. And, you know, Kijiji and Used Victoria, or Used whatever city you're in, they work really, really well. And especially if you put that magic free, if you put free up, I reckon someone will be calling you within 5 minutes. It's unbelievable. There must be people trolling for free stuff all the time. And it will go very, very fast. So I'm a great advocate of those sites. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I guess there's one thing we haven't mentioned, which is kind of going back a bit, which I think is actually really important if you're thinking of relocating to a different city, and of course this applies to a different country too, is to do a test run. I mean, when I moved to Victoria, I knew the city. I had a lot of friends here. So I pretty much knew what I was coming to. But I've had a lot of friends who've moved from the prairies to the coast and then find that the coast doesn't suit them and move back, or move to one of the countries, which are trendy right now, like Ecuador, and got there and it's been a pretty big disaster, and then they move back and they move without ever going to the place first. So I'm just always, I know folks who've done this, and it can be a even more expensive return home. So if you're moving for even any kind of financial reasons or emotional reasons, give it a year. Give it a year at the worst time of the year if it's not going to be a full year, so that when you move, you know what you're truly coming to, not like it's in the best, vacation time. So I just think that's a hugely important thing we should probably pop in there as we're getting towards the end of our talk today.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. I know that when I made the decision to move to Victoria, I came and stayed here a month, twice.
Yeah.
And purposely came with the idea that I'm not going to I'm not coming as a tourist. I'm coming as a person who is thinking and looking at this as a place to live. How easy is it to get to know people? What resources are there? And what's the tone of the communities and all of that? I did the same thing when I was deciding whether I wanted to move back to the Maritimes. I did that and realized this is not going to work. So it was a good thing. I mean, I could have just gone on what I remembered about where I came from, and that was home, and all of that good stuff. But when I went back, I realized it was not going to work. So yeah. I couldn't agree more. Always do the test.
Yeah, I did the same. I was a come and goer for about 12 years before I actually came. And I did have close friends from previous places I'd lived in Saskatchewan. So I had a little bit of a community when I came, which really was great, really made a big difference. I mean, like as Sue said, when you first arrive, it's very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's huge. Otherwise, I tell you, I know, I mean, I actually know someone who went overseas and went lock, stock, and barrel, sold up everything. It was pretty much of a disaster when they were overseas. And I tell you, coming back, they came back broke. And that breaks my heart to just think of it. So, yeah, you got to do the test.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So, I mean, that sort of leads into, I think I'm going to skip just looking at our time here. I was going to talk about some lessons learned about dealing with consignment stores, but I think I'll leave that and dive into the fact that we've intimated that how important it is to know your city, and because your own city that you're in. So when you're downsizing, so you know where can you make donations? What are the rules around the dump? What are the rules around putting things out on the street? The lane market, I guess it's called, or whatever.
Yeah.
And where are the recycle outlets? And where, what do you do with bottles and electronics and all of that? It's really, I guess that's part of the planning and organizing, is to know that. But it's going to be different in each city. And while it was really important for me to know that before I moved, it seemed to be just as important to know that after I moved. Because once, there are some things you don't quite know what to do with or about. But when you get there, you realize that there are some more things that you need to get rid of. And so you need to know all of those things about wherever it is that you're going, as well as where you left. So that was an eye-opener for me, realizing I thought I had it all really well organized, but let me tell you, I got rid of a lot of stuff after I got here.
Yeah. I was lucky my daughter lives just right next door to where I am now, and she needed a lot of stuff. So once I arrived, anything that I realized wasn't going to fit, most of it she was pretty happy to adopt. So that was nice.
Well, that makes it really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we're coming close to the end of our talk, now that the move is over for all three of us, I mean, I think we've intimated a few things, but what changes have you noticed in the quality of your life?
Well, living here in Victoria, of course, the biggest is just how much time I spend outdoors, and how accessible it is, like the parks, the ocean, walking, like you say. We share the same village, Cook Street Village, walking to buy my groceries. Things like that. Because you could live like in Europe, every day go pick up what you want for your dinner, that sort of thing. So I feel for myself that's the biggest change, is just how you can actually live outside so much more every day of the year, more or less, compared to living in the prairies.
And one thing for me is, well, it actually isn't for me, but I think that's important for a lot of folks, is children and grandchildren. Nancy brought it to mind by saying that her daughter lives close by, almost next door, and I think that's something you really, really have to work out before you move. My kids are scattered across the planet. I got one in New York, I got one in the Netherlands, and I got one in Alberta. So the concept of having my kids or grandchildren close to me probably isn't going to work anyway, but it is a huge part of a lot of people's lives. And although you might want to move and you say, well, the kids and the grandkids will always come and see me, that's not necessarily the case. And then if you have to consider your journey, how many times and how much would it cost to go back to see them if they're any distance away? So I think that's another thing that we put into considering about where we go and whether we move. But certainly, having made the move myself, certainly the kids when they're here, they're very happy to come and see me here. So, and that may not be the same if you were in somewhere, in Inuvik or something. No offense to anyone listening in Inuvik, but it's just more difficult to get to. So I think that's a factor too that we haven't really talked about, but we all of us have pretty much dealt with.
And you know, on that's a really great point, Sue. And on the flip side, I've seen people follow their kids,
Yes.
move where their kids are, and then they get all settled, and then boom, the kids, guess what? They're transferred, they move. And then I know a couple, they've got a place up in Comox for no good reason now, and
Yeah,
you know.
that's another important point, Nancy. Yep.
Yes, my advice would be choose where the lifestyle is going to fit you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rather than hitching your life to your kids.
Yeah, follow your bliss.
Yeah, follow your own bliss. Yeah. I'm just thinking. Oh, one of the other things that I wrote down was was in relation to books. We did talk in the green room some time ago about how difficult it is to let go of the books, and you can sell some books and some books don't sell and whatever, but you know, the whole notion of having this enormous library is just an outdated concept now. It's so easy we have really good libraries, and now we can access any books we want online in various electronic forms. So that was I mean, that's a major shift for me, because I had quite an extensive library. I took 15 boxes to the secondhand bookstore. They didn't buy them all, but that's how many I took. So it's very easy to use electronic books and libraries and so forth. And the thing that stands out for me is, I guess, one of the questions we asked ourselves: what did I learn about myself in this whole exercise? And I guess I would say that that we are emotionally attached to some things. There are memories or family history or whatever, and I came to the realization that it's okay to keep a couple of things, even though I don't use them. It's just that they somehow feel as though it helps me keep that connection to where I came from. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, you know, there were 2 items that I wanted to sell, and fortunately they didn't sell, and then, you know, because I put this really high price on them, and then as I looked at them, I realized there were the 2 things that I felt really connected to where I came from and who I am. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? And yeah, that is totally okay. So it's just as long as it's not too many things like that. Mm-hmm. So did either of you learn anything about yourself in the whole exercise?
What a lot of money I'd spent over the years collecting a lot of stuff that really meant nothing. And that I just really wanted to get rid of. And I did. We had 45 bags out in our back alley for the Diabetes Association, and I said to my husband, you do realize those are all in those bags it's full of things that we purchased, that we were working, earning money to pay for. And just now I'm much more cognizant of what I bring home, what I spend my money on.
Ah, that's a really, really good realization. I think.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'll kind of I'll wrap it up, because, you know, I totally agree, and I just think that it's a very freeing experience for me, and we, you know, as we go into our later years, we do realize that, you know, this life isn't a dress rehearsal, and if you do want to fully embrace every day, don't have clutter around that's stopping you embracing and doing what you really want to do. So just make your life simple and go out and enjoy it. And I think you're actually going off for an outdoor adventure now, aren't you, Nancy?
I've got to get out there. My friends are waiting. They're on hold for me.
and that's what it's all about, isn't it? So, you know, just clean off the irrelevant stuff and get out and enjoy every day and carpe diem and all that stuff.
That's right. And when I come back afterwards, I'll be finishing my office, cleaning it up, organizing it.
So thank you very much, both of you, for joining me in this conversation. This is kind of an interesting journey for us. We have not discussed what our next session will be about. I have an idea, but I haven't shared it with the other two yet. So we'll cover that at another time. So thanks so much. And this is Lowell Ann signing off.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.